I have seen such a being of light myself during astral projection, and I know they exist all around us, within the higher vibrationary atmosphere of the earth. We are being given our final warnings and opportunities to do all we can to emerge from the despair of the old dark order into the new future of light. The only way to achieve this is to recognize the pitfalls of the Luciferic influence and live our spiritual ideals in deed as well as in thought. Firstly, we have to be aware of the clues to the methods employed by the Brotherhood in their ultimate goal of centralized world control. The tools they use to fight their ultimate wars are ourselves. They program our thoughts, our very conception of who we are, what is right and wrong, and we, in turn, give them what they wish in the belief that this is the right, or the only way to live long and prosper. We build the prisons in which to house ourselves and hand the keys to our jailers who are the Brotherhood elite. The crazy part about all of this is that we do it willingly and because they ask us to. In order to facilitate the transformation, we must resist the urge to identify those who would seek to control us as hopelessly evil. We must recognize the system for what it is and seek to change it in a loving, positive and balanced way. Even at the highest levels of the Brotherhood elite, the most misguided of the Illuminati are not immune from the effects of the global reawakening. It is those who are most imbalanced towards negativity who have the greatest positive potential. If just one of these elite Luciferic controlled minds is returned to its natural balanced state, then virtually the entire process could be reversed overnight. This is a potential, and any potential is possible. It all depends on how much energy we channel into that potential to make it a reality. Furthermore, it is essential that we take what we are being fed through the media and education with a pinch of salt, for not all of it will be truth. Events are engineered on a global scale, and then a version of it is transmitted to us in order to perpetuate certain states such as fear and apathy within the mass population. So much of little consequence to us is thrown our way to divert us from free thought, and we are bombarded with sex, violence, sport and graphic horror. We are often more concerned with who is being transferred from which football team to another, or what the royal family had for tea, than the fact that the planet is being destroyed around us and our neighbors are dying of cold, starvation and despair for the want of a little kindness and love. These are very effective diversionary tactics and manipulative devices. We must begin look at the world through new eyes if we are to really make a difference and take back the right to autonomy and free will which is ours by divine law. This is a long-term plot against humanity, a war of stealth and attrition, a war which the majority of us are not even aware exists because of its scale and slowly cumulative nature. By viewing all of these things on a large scale and by linking patterns and events which we are traditionally encouraged to see as separate, we can piece together the real agendas behind the Illuminati smokescreens. Nothing in the universe is truly separate from anything else. If we analyze just who it is in the world who benefit from the negativity and manipulation, we see that it is the same people over and over again. They represent a consciousness which is like a black hole and is sucking in our vitality with every passing day. This is the direction of the energy flow, and its polarity is towards negativity. Wherever we see this trend and recognize it, we can begin to work to reverse the polarity back towards the balance point. This relies on our ability to recognize truth and be prepared to act on our knowledge. It takes you and me, and it takes love. These methods which they use to persuade us to imprison ourselves are very basic, yet totally effective. They engineer situations within our society up to the point where the public are so outraged that they insist on action from those in power. The powers that be, Brotherhood pawns, offer, as a solution, the very thing it wanted to impose in the first place. The public accept the proffered solution, so the Brotherhood's desires are implemented with public support. For example, in order to give the police greater powers of arrest, detention and search able to serve the Brotherhood, they manipulate society into creating more crime and despondency. The people cry out for a solution and the politicians come up with more government legislation to counteract the problem. What better way to gain greater control over a population than persuade its people that, for an improvement in their quality of life, they need a larger network of agencies such as MI5, CIA, FBI and the police, and with greater powers than ever before? We must always be on the alert for the hidden agendas behind legislation and economics before we subscribe to the suggested solution. Remember, these people kill or cause people to be killed for profit, pleasure and power. No one is inexpendable and most of the executors of these hidden agendas are entirely unaware or willfully ignorant of what they are really being used for. Where we see terrorism, where we see wars, legislation against minorities to restrict their freedom. Anywhere we see more powers given to the establishment and less to the free people, we must ask ourselves the true reasons behind these actions. It has been shown how the bankers financed and helped to manipulate into existence the major wars of this century, how the same banks that were backing Hitler and the Nazi war machine during WEI were also behind the Allies. At the end of the war, with the world in chaos and the people's morale depleted, these same banks and their pawns, the politicians, were able to reassemble the world's economy right on target for the New World Order. The future World Army was initiated under the guise of a peacekeeping force we now know as the United Nations. And the people were so grateful to these powers for ridding the world of such an evil menace that they entirely surrendered themselves, once again, to the policies and propaganda of the people who had created the war in the first place. And so, the process continues to this day. We must challenge automatic thought patterns and habitual lifestyles which are the weapons employed against us. We must constantly question and never betray ourselves to the power of thought forms of the masses. The world is full of fashion victims, not only in the sense of clothing but in lifestyles and thought patterns too. These fashions have been provided by, fed, watered and nurtured by the Brotherhood in order to feed their lust for money and power. Every penny we spend gets back to their banks in the end. Everything we work for and achieve will be theirs if we allow it. Moves are underway now to replace money entirely with credit. Credit cards, debit cards and smart cards are now being developed at such a runaway rate that soon we will all be rated as credit. Technology exists now to use chips in cards both for access to personal details and to transmit messages into the psyche of the carrier to control behavior. More and more opportunities are being sought to use this microtechnology, as tags for criminals, as pet identity chips, as surgical implants and as locators for potentially missing children and babies. It is a small step to the under-the-skin control chip. Efforts are underway to centralize world government powers. Plans for a federal Europe under a single European government have been underway for years now. Step by step, power is taken away from the masses and delivered into the hands of the few. Watch out for calls for larger armies and greater powers. Have you noticed how the UN peacekeeping forces are always too late and in too little numbers to actually be effective? Watch out for a call for a centralized world army in order to provide greater peacekeeping potential. It would really be a double bluff to give more power to the Brotherhood elite. Watch out too for those situations which the ruling classes and governments vehemently oppose and be careful not to support something just because those whom you oppose are against it. This is one of the oldest, but most effective tricks in the book and it has duped millions time and time again. Don't allow the further decline or the consequences may be disastrous. Always be true to yourself first and foremost and see beneath the veil of deceit. The coming transformation to a unified multidimensional Christ consciousness will affect everyone. The brotherhood included. We can only be controlled if we allow ourselves to be so. Nothing is impossible. We are the vehicles for the divine consciousness, we are the creative hands of God. It is up to all of us, and that includes the brotherhood, to reevaluate our position, for we cannot escape ourselves and the karma we create. As Mark Phillips once explained to Kathy O'Brien, good always prevails through positive application, whereas the bad guys are hindered and slowed in their criminal endeavors through having to cover up their negative actions with lies to support lies. This inevitably allows the truth to emerge.